So it looks like this whole JonTron thing is going to be the next big story out there in terms of politics or current events, whatever, e-celebrity drama. And normally I could care so much less. But as someone that's actually liked JonTron for a while, I can't really just sit idle while everyone jumps on him for making these comments. As with every big story out there, it seems half of everything is just taken completely out of context. And honestly, I'm just going to focus on the most inflammatory one. The one everyone's getting mad at him for. And that would be when he said, rich blacks commit more crime than poor whites. And there's been a lot of sources out there that claim to back this up, and while I'm not doubting them, it's literally just a picture with numbers. The other reason I'm making this is because JonTron was asked if he thought that poor blacks committed more crimes than wealthy blacks, which he said they do. They also commit more crime than poor whites. Now, I don't know why he said this exactly. However, I don't doubt he's wrong. Now, that's something that's really hard to prove in the first place, though. You show progressive statistics that say wealthy blacks commit more crime than poor whites, and they'll chalk it up to racism and incarceration bias or something. That's why I'm going to try to shed some light onto John's point with something less subjective. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to put this in bold. This does not prove that wealthy blacks commit more crime. All I'm going to prove is that they commit more homicide, which is a crime, but it's not all crime like John said. John said that wealthy blacks commit more crime than poor whites. I can't really prove that. It would just be really messy. So I'm telling you now, I'm not trying to prove that. I'm trying to just prove that wealthy blacks commit more homicide than poor whites. Also, I'm going to preface, even though I doubt it matters as everyone's already made up their mind, but by saying this, I don't hate anyone. I don't hate any races. I just hate that John is receiving this much backlash for a comment that leans on the side of truth. If he said whites commit more crime than Asians and everyone got on him for that, I'd be doing the same thing. Now, why am I using homicide? Well, for a few reasons, but mostly because it's harder to attribute homicide, killing another person. It's harder to attribute that to underreporting or false arrests or bias. It could happen, but unlike other crimes, this one is pretty objective and solid. The stats are more readily available, etc. You can see the rates for all races here. I don't think I need to do much explaining. You've probably seen this graph in a lot of places, but you can see that there is a big difference. Notably, you have the blacks committing the highest percentage and Asians committing the lowest, with everyone else kind of in the middle, you know? This graph might need a bit more explaining though. However, it shows that race is the strongest predictor when it comes to homicide rates. Race will get you a more accurate estimation of a homicide rate per county, better than income, education, etc. You can get this by taking the CDC mortality data by county and cross-referencing that data with the Census ACS data by county. And I'll put both of those in the description for you so you can check it out yourselves. And I'd be kind of a hypocrite if I didn't ask you to kind of look over that for me. But I think the math is pretty solid here. I'll add this in too. The single motherhood rate is also a close second when it comes to predicting homicide rate. As you can see here, it shows that single motherhood white people are also pretty homicidal. Race is the strongest predictor, but single motherhood is a close second. Moving on though, you can see when you increase the black percentage, the homicide percentage increases by about 1 standard deviation as well. If you factor out single motherhood rate, poverty, and all that, you get down to about 0.6%, which is still a kind of a high increase, but that gets you on a whole causation feedback loop discussion, but I won't be getting into that again. I'm just trying to focus on defending John's comments. At the end of the day, race remains perhaps the single strongest predictor of homicide rate. And to be honest, this can't really be explained away by racist cops or bias in the justice system, because all of these stats come directly from the coroner's office, which bypasses all of that. Poverty does have a close tie to homicide rate though, so for that we have this graph. Now, I'm going a bit fast here. No human would be capable of reading this, so in the interest of time, you can pause here if you want to read it all. Anyways, it shows that poverty predicts homicide rate independently of race, while on the same token, race predicts independently of poverty. So basically, you can use either one to predict the homicide rate, however, one isn't terribly influenced by the other. Now with that was sort of the foundation. Now we get to where I really wanted to go with this. When you take homicide rates by race and compare it to income by race, and keep in mind we're measuring using counties here, you can see that income is still not as strong of a predictor as race is. And lo and behold, it shows that many poor white counties still have a lower homicide rate than well-off black counties, which is very similar to what JonTron said. Again, I know he said crime. I know homicide isn't a measure of all crime. In fact, though, I would guess if he said rich black people murder more than poor whites, it would have been seen as even worse. However, it's true. I'm using homicide because it has the least room for subjective opinions. I'm just trying to take everyone's hate for JonTron down a notch. It's like up here at an 8 or a 9. I'm trying to get it down to at least a 5 or a 6. Also, again, I'm not making this video to make a certain race look bad or to make people hate me. Hell, look, Asians murder each other less than whites. Whites commit more crime and murder. Now, does that make me a hateful person because I said that? Does that make that a hateful comment now? No, if 2 plus 2 equals 4, it equals 4. I also don't think any race is predisposed to commit crime or murder either. I think it's simply, again, the feedback loop of bad influences that transcends income. JonTron has always said to judge people by their person and character and not by their race. I don't think he's hateful. I don't think his opinions are hateful at all. Isn't he kind of like half Middle Eastern or something? I don't know. I'm making assumptions. Jafari, that's his last name. I don't know. That's just a guess. That is just a guess. And the last point I want to make is that this Destiny guy, the whole video that kind of started this whole thing, he's a debater. He's spent tons of time debating people, which from what I've seen, he makes some good points and arguments. I'm gonna give him credit there, but a lot of the time he just talks faster and louder than the other people and looks like he wins the argument. JonTron is an entertainer with opinions. All that really matters, though, is he isn't practiced in debating. I think that he had a lot of the right ideas, he just couldn't word them quite right. Especially when it's in the format that it was in and it's up against, like, this guy that has tons and tons of experience debating people. Really, though, this video is here to just show that his points, at least the most inflammatory ones, were based off some truths and not simply, like, fluff opinions. Anyways, that's all I have to say. I can only care so much. It takes a lot to actually make me stop procrastinating and make a video like this, and that did it. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you next time.